Hello and welcome to the final part of this track, in which I'm going a little bit more in depth of the vocals that were used for Missing You. First of all, these vocals, they came from a sample pack called Astral Trance Vocals. You can download them from Splice. For instance, this one here is used here. And for me, these vocals were necessary to create the depth inside the track. It created a little bit more body, and it gave the intro this kind of a dark vibe. First of all, when you're using these samples, as you can notice, they are on a BPM of 138, while the tempo of the whole project is 150. So to make sure that your samples are in line with your tempo, first of all, you have to make sure that your real-time mode is on stretch. Then right-click on the time knob, put it on auto detect, and then you want to make sure that your BPM of the vocals corresponds with the vocal of the BPM of the original vocal. So then if you type in 138, ignore the 155 that you saw, it will then match the tempo that you're using in the project. So if we take a listen small in the intro to create the story with these vocals. I was basically playing around with the vocals, tried to find which ones were actually sounded good together. For instance, this vocal is in F, so to make sure that it was in the right key, I played around with the pitch knobs, and I noticed that it was actually a lot better if it were in G sharp, not in F. And to use a little bit more dreamy kind of effects within this track, I assigned, let me check where I got it. Well, I guess they were already very good in terms of original. But some of these samples, they needed for me a little bit more dreamy kind of effects. So I assigned a patcher to it that gives this reverb and the delay signal a little bit of a compressor to make sure that the lows are in mono and the highs are de-essed, to make sure that the S's and the F's are not too annoying to listen to. Then put together some EQ to box out all of the low end, a little bit of the harsh frequencies within the vocals. Same here. And then put it all together with a little bit more low end cutoff, a little bit of stereo, and a fruity balance to automate the volume. What I like to do as well is then create multiple vocal unique samples which are panned left and right to create the width in the track. And as soon as that is done, the intro part is gone, or not necessarily gone, it's over. The midsection has some Indian female love kind of chants. I love them really much, so take a listen. So I basically cut the vocal, repeated it a few times over, then made it from stereo towards mono when it goes into the drop. And that's what you hear in the background of the track. Then during the drop, I found that the vocal pack also had some gated vocals. You can hear here. They also have the same kind of delay and reverbs. What I forgot to do in this track, so that's a tip for myself, but also for you, is make sure that these kind of frequencies don't clash with the leads too much. And you can try to cut them a little bit through with side chaining, as I did right here. These tracks, mixer tracks, are side chains from Fruity Limiter to make sure that all of the high frequencies are noticeable, but that the vocal cuts through a little bit. Then as soon as the midsection comes, there are more vocals here. So this part is more mono, and then I cut to the stereo part to give it that dreamy vibe. And then we want to make sure that you get this kind of a don't turn away vibe. And here it cuts off. But because there's so much going on in the rest of the track, you can actually ignore it. And here, this sample was a little bit too short with the forget. So I wanted to make sure that the add from forget was prolonged a little bit. And I put a volume automation to create that slow fade out. What's really important here is the timing. Just make sure that you put all the elements of the track on the right timing. And that's just, you know, playing around, listening, and make sure that it sounds good. And as you can hear it, it repeats itself, but since it's mixed with so many other elements in the track, you barely even hear it. Maybe even if you listen very well, you can't even hear it in the track. So a higher pitch and a lower pitch. And here we done the same thing, mixing some of these elements together. If you want to know how to make these kind of automations within fade-ins and fade-outs, just use the declicking mode and then choose the one that matches with what you want to achieve. I'm using crossfade in this one. So here it is the same. You hear the repeated stuff, the repeated vocal, I mean. Here as well, but we're using a volume automation to kind of fade out the vocal. And eventually we go to the end part of the second drop, which then cuts to the build-up. So now we're going to the build-up one more time. And especially this part has a lot of automation and a lot of mixers. So I filtered to give it a little bit more of the high end out of it. A vocal just for effects and Valhalla room to give this big kind of reverb into finally the second drop. And we cut off the volume here. So one more time in the full mix, that sounds like this. Sorry, here. So this is how the Missing You track is in general constructed. If you want to know more, or if you want to know more how to create these kind of tracks, just leave a like, subscribe, comment on this video. Perhaps give some feedback what you liked or didn't like. And in the future then maybe I can create some more tutorials about this. So hopefully you learned something today, and yeah, have a good see you in the next video. Bye bye.